In as little as 30 minutes, conditions apply. The time by Sagicor Bank is...
It is now 7 o'clock, time for the Morning Watch.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also check us out on Love 101 FM Facebook Live and YouTube Live. In the main watch today, the royals, reparations, and retroactive apologies, the psychological connection. In the second watch, human rights lessons learned during the period of COVID restrictions. In our social media question, we ask, how will an apology and reparations help you to psychologically heal from the history of slavery? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-9973125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on the program, but first, here's I Quote.
All right, I quote, a man cannot be comfortable with his own approval. Mark Twain. Good morning.
My brother, I think you left out three important letters. It reads without his own approval.
Without.
Yes, because many times we are seeking approval from others, and that is not the way to live. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing well. It's a good morning. It's looking bright and chirpy outside, so we have to give God thanks for that.
Indeed. I thought you were going to preach again in Euroshade.
No, not at all.
Not today. All right, maybe next week after. The main watch will be back after this break.
All right, stay tuned. This is Love 101.
I did a crazy attack. You see me means a real G, real go-getter. My life move non-stop. So me have to stay link and floor yard and road. And my connect and one plan link me up at home with Wi-Fi and on my mobile with data and calls to any network. At my yard, non-stop streaming my vibes. I studying for my picking them and out the road. And non-stop vibes, same way. Flow connect me non-stop for as little as $3,999 a month plus GCT. I forget it. Visit discoverflow.co. Conditions apply.
Things you can do online with NCB in 10.6 minutes or less. On your marks, go! Open a bank account. Open an investment account. Get a fast cash or pay advance loan. Sign up for our mobile app and pay bills, make transfers, and check your balances. Get pre-qualified for your dream home. Apply for a credit card. Apply for an auto loan to buy your dream car. Visit www.jncb.com/getdigital to get your financial goals moving NCB fast.
So what you doing for Lent?
Grace a fish for Lent, so is that me doing? Me can't eat healthier, and me don't have to scale one fish. They make all the fish I want in different flavor and style. Plus, canned fish more reasonable.
Attention shoppers! Buy Grace Mackerel, Grace Sardines, and Grace Tuna. It's the healthy, easier, and more affordable choice for Lent.
Hold my spot in the line. I'm gonna pick up some more Grace Mackerel and Grace Sardine, yeah?
Grace has your fish for Lent. Value deals in participating stores.
Need to pass your CSEC CAPE exams to get that dream job or to qualify for university? Then Distinction College is the school for you. We have locations in Kingston, Spanish Town, St. Elizabeth, and Ocho Rios. Start day, evening, and Saturday classes this coming term and sit CSEC CAPE exams for January's resit or May, June. Maths, law, science, English. We have the lowest school fees. Register before the end of the month and win an entire term free. Call us at 354-8560.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are now in the main watch. The Royals head to the Bahamas after a 3-day visit here in Jamaica. And while they were received and entertained with all pomp and pageantry, there were protests demanding an end to the British monarchy in relation to the British monarch being our head of state. And there were also more calls for an apology and reparations. So some Jamaicans are saying we don't want the British monarch to be our head of state anymore. You know, you're free to be the British monarch for Britain, but not for us. However, this morning we want to take a somewhat different look at these issues, more from the point of view of our human psychology. For example, is the lack of reparations affecting the Jamaican psyche? Is the lack of a full and complete apology from Britain also affecting us, whether we realize it on the surface, or is it more on the subliminal level, beneath the surface? We have online this morning to have a discussion and very relevant conversation around this. Reverend Dr. Gordon Collins, he's the minister of United Church in Jamaica and Grand Cayman, in the Cayman Islands, and chair of the church's task force on reparations. We also have with us Dr. Leakim Semaj, founder, ideator, Above or Beyond. Good day, gentlemen. How are you both?
I'm very well. Good morning. This is Gordon Collins. I'm very pleased to be with you and your listeners.
I'm alive and well.
Glad to have you both back. Reverend Collins, Dr. Collins, maybe it turns out you're going to be a regular guest with us as well. I believe it's the second time I'm interviewing you, sir.
Well, it's all about love. We are we are willing to be with you in love. And if indeed we are going to be able to help our people, Jamaica, to talk more and more respectfully about the real issue of reparations, I'll be very open to being with you whenever.
And of course, Dr. Samaj has been with us many times. Now, Reverend Dr. Collins, starting with you. Wasn't a harm done to our ancestors during the period of enslavement here in Jamaica?
There was a tremendous harm. Slavery was sin. And it was a crime done to generations of our people, and the legacies continue. That crime needs to be addressed. And there is really, I suppose you hear from my tone, that I think that there is no question about it.
Now, interestingly, at that time when it occurred, it was perfectly legal. However, when a harm is done, do we not expect at least some form of restorative justice to include even monetary payment to compensate for the wrongs done, Reverend Dr. Collins?
Absolutely. So it might have been perfectly legal then by the legal standards established by men, and immoral at the same time. So the actions were immoral, sinful, and we should, stop speaking euphemistically about the tremendous hurt that was levied against a whole people. And I'm so glad you have Leakim with us this morning, because I'd love to hear his take on the business of generational trauma. So the trauma that we faced as a people continues in many, many ways, and the legacies of that slavery period are still being faced, and perhaps being faced in some very critical ways as we speak.
Reverend Dr. Cohen, that
Yes.
matter of trauma was 2 questions down from the one I just asked you. However,
Yes.
before we ask Dr. Semaj to comment and respond, maybe I'm here sounding like an attorney, which I am. Don't we also expect that if wrong is done, that it should be either admitted or proved?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And there is no question in my mind that there is a place for the British state. And of course, it includes other parts of Europe as well. And please remember that the reparations argument is not really a private quarrel between Jamaica and a specific family or group of people. It is about Europe's actions in Africa and Africa's diaspora as we speak. So there is a wrong that must be addressed.
Have to bring in Dr. Semaj now. Dr. Semaj, you have heard the responses of the Reverend. What are your comments? And, of course, as I did indicate, I did plan to ask about trauma. Dr. Semaj?
Well, trauma takes many forms. And yes, they can be transgenerational, because remember that almost every institution that Europe had and their descendants had responsibility for were involved in this thing of, let's call it what it is, the promotion of white supremacy. The church was a part of it. The state was a part of it. Just last year, I was so happy to live to see the American Psychological Association issued a public apology for the role that psychologists and, in fact, the American Psychological Association played in the justification of white supremacy and all the things that stemmed from it in terms of the dehumanizing of people of African ancestry.
Yes.
And then they went on to indicate the things that they plan to do to provide corrective measures. Now, a colleague of mine, Maxine Isis Stowe, made a very interesting post this morning on Facebook where she referred to the royal visit, but no apology needed. No, she says, and maybe from a legal standpoint, you can tell me what your view is. She says, apology is a legal requirement for reparations. However, profound sorrow does not take the legal responsibility. It is a lack of knowledge of law related to reparation that a position of no apology needed is being promoted. So this construct, apology, even psychologically, profound sorrow is just something that you have internally. Apology has certain consequences. If I apologize for my action, then clearly following that must be some corrective measures and restorative measures. And many of our people have internalized the whole process of white supremacy into our language, into our thought, into our behavior. So that process continues. I mean, there's so many statements, Walter Rodney's book.
I used to even criticize hair straightening, Dr. Semaj, and I know that's a very controversial one, but even hair straightening was something I used to criticize because I thought it was an attempt to emulate our European former colonizers.
You have stopped. I have not stopped without any apology. I have not stopped. I accept. When I look in the mirror, I see God looking back at me with my nose and my skin color. And we as a people, if you see how collectively, tangent alert, the majority of Jamaican women, once they hit puberty, they no longer know what their natural hair look like. Because it's a rite of passage that you should now perm or cream or straighten your hair to make it look like somebody else's. I say this
of another race. Dr.
Absolutely.
Dr. Samaj, we are already upon a break. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back at the Morning Watch.
Listeners to Love.
Chunky, spicy, and delicious. Lasco mackerel. Get hooked on the tastiest mackerel around. The time by Lasco mackerel is?
It is now 7:15.
Build more, earn more with H&L Rapid True Value. March 24 to 28, get up to 75% off lighting accessories and building materials. Shop with your H&L loyalty card and receive 1% cash back on all your purchases. Don't wait another minute to start your new project. Delivery and curbside pickup available. Build more, earn more with H&L Rapid True Value.
Bashko time. All the things that you need for your home and prices so low you would never need a loan at Bashko. Build it at Bashko. Appliances, house with furniture and rugs, inside linens and glass mugs at Bashko. When you're shopping at Bashko, whether the north or so in the east and the west, Bashko them all over. They must be the best at Bashko. At Bashko. When you're shopping at Bashko. At Bashko. Giving you more.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
Stakeholders, items exported temporarily for repairs or for commercial use must first be registered with the Jamaica Customs Agency using an electronic customs declaration EX2 completed by a customs approved agent. Re-imported items which are upgraded, altered, or replaced may attract a customs duty. For customs related matters, you may email public.relations@jca.gov.jm or telephone 876-922-51408. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
Blue side, more vibe, let's flow. Data from the mobile apps and where you know, yeah. Flow is the way I gotta go, yeah. Face it, grab it, tweet it, snap it, tune it or WhatsApp it. You got it? No Spotify and the rhythm of your life. TikTok to the world that we are enjoying. Flow is the way to go.
Flow turns up the app. Now your unlimited talk and social plan comes with data for all the apps you really want, including TikTok and Spotify. Get a 7-day plan for only $725. Dial *129*6 to activate. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the main watch. We are speaking with Reverend Dr. Gordon Collins and Dr. Leah Kim Samaj. And the topic we're looking at in this main watch, royals, reparations, and retroactive apologies, the psychological connection. Dr. Samaj, before the break, you're making a point. Would you like to continue the point? And would you like to comment as well on the Duke of Cambridge? When he spoke, he expressed sorrow, but he didn't actually apologize. From a psychological perspective, any comments on that as well, Dr. Samaj?
No, absolutely. Clearly, I'm sure that he's been instructed, just as lawyers instruct their client what not to say. I'm instructed by my lawyer in the case of a traffic accident, do not accept any responsibility or guilt or any such thing. Exchange papers and say, listen, we will take this up. So that by him not using the word apology, it does not trigger the other issues that come following an apology. So I think he's been properly coached. But then we have our own responsibility. We have neglected to be clear on this, and a lot of people don't understand the little nuance of a problem we have. A referendum must have a 60% majority in order to execute removal of the Queen. Now, unless both political parties, both major parties agree to come to the people on one platform, this will never ever happen, because then people will vote along party lines. No party has ever had a 60% of the electorate voting from where I've been voting. It has never happened and probably will never ever happen. So unless both parties come together before the fact and come to the people with one issue, we, the major political parties of Jamaica, believe that it is the right thing for us as a people to do to move away from the monarchy. Then each party will be juggling for position to make sure that they are the one that move into the Republican status as the head. And you see where the problem lies.
Dr. Samaj, you said quite a mouthful there. And yes, if he did in fact apologize, in my view, as an attorney, it would have meant that he would have had to have admitted that there was a problem.
Absolutely.
And as you did indicate, it would trigger other things, such as the matter of compensation, as the etc., etc., etc. Reverend Dr. Collins, how do you, in your view, from a spiritual angle, and I know that, you know, even though you're a reverend, it doesn't mean that reverends don't deal with psychology, because you have to do that on a daily basis.
All in the community, yes, in the life of people.
How do you see the church assisting to help people to psychologically overcome what our ancestors went through, which has trickled down, as you can see, skin bleaching into this day, 2022? So there is still manifestation of the scars of the past. Reverend Dr. Collins.
So the church in large part has been over now almost centuries doing just that, working with our people in the reality of our situation for the development of a nation.
Stick up in, Reverend Dr. Collins. I don't remember.
Yes.
Let me say I don't remember. Yes. I don't remember in recent times hearing any sermon where any pastor or priest, well, for the priest it would probably be a homily, where they spoke passionately against what had happened in the past and how we can heal psychologically. Maybe they have spoken about the horrors of the past, yes, but I don't hear much about how to heal going forward. But anyway, continue, Reverend Dr. Collins.
No, I hear you. And I know when you express that, you express sometimes a view of Jamaica in general. One of the things I want to talk to the Jamaican people about is when we say we don't hear the pastors saying things, we have to put ourselves in places where pastors speak. A lot of Jamaica don't go to the church, and even in the days when coronavirus required us to be online. I mean, I wonder if this is the kind of challenge that I could say to my Jamaican brothers and sisters. How many people got up on a Sunday morning or Saturday morning and turned on and said, what are the Jamaican pastors really saying these days? Because almost everybody has been online. So the bottom line is that many of the things that, you know, as Jamaicans we say, it's time for the church to say something. The church is indeed saying something. In fact, last year, the United Church had one whole week of sermons of our pastors and senior lay people talking precisely about this matter, about the legacies of slavery, the psychological impact upon our people, the developmental challenge that the legacies of slavery provide even until today. And it is very, very much a part of what the dialogue certainly in the United Church and the Baptist Church and many other of our churches. But
I want to bring back in Dr. Semar shortly, but a very touchy one here, Reverend Dr. Com. Very touchy subject here.
No, man, touch it.
And I'm not saying that artwork is bad, but as far as I am aware, historically, Jesus was not Caucasian. He would have likely been of some olive-looking complexion based on historical accounts I have seen and read. Now, the myriad of images of Jesus, some with blue eyes, long flowing hair. So when you walk into a cathedral or a church and you see that image before you, you have some exceptions. I've been to a church where there's an exception. Even that is almost like a subliminal message to the congregation. Any comments on that, sir?
No, absolutely. But it is not a few exceptions that, for example, the Madonna and Child are represented in Jamaican iconography as persons of Black African background, Jamaican looking people. We have many such, and of course, there are many of our churches in which we just simply do not have these kinds of representations, physical representations of the God we serve. But at the heart of us exposing the God of love who we know, we're talking about a God who knows us and who is like us. So psychologically, the church and through its educational institutions, the point I wanted to make, the establishment of all of our schools over all these decades, even going centuries, has been a part of the challenge to free the mind of our people, of our Jamaican people. And that has been part of the contribution to the psychological relief.
Thanks, Reverend Dr. Collins. Dr. Semaj, how can we address or continue to address these matters psychologically? Sir, how?
It has to be done on every front. I am not so sure that I am seeing enough on the part of the church to ensure that I'm convinced that many people still have so internalized that God is white, Jesus is white. Though my sin be so and so, it be washed as white as. And now we need to. That's part of the significant liberation that must happen, and whereby literally, in the Catholic Church at the highest level, they have an image of the Black Madonna and Child as one of their most sacred items. But many of us still hold on to that personification. And you're right, Jesus could be anything but blonde hair and blue eye, but there are many people still have internalized that, and I still believe it. So that's part of the process by the liberation, where we have to start to make sure that we start our language, the way we express ourselves. So many elements of our culture are still believing that white is right, white is better, anything too black no good, you need to put some milk in the coffee, you can't be. So that the whole internalization, and it's almost an exocentric personality element, meaning that you put things from outside of you at the center of your universe, as opposed to putting yourself at the center of your universe. As I said earlier, when I look in the mirror, I see God looking back at me. I know that I was made in the image and likeness of God, looking just like me. And I'm not sure many Jamaicans could actually close their eyes and see God looking at them exactly as they are. So that's part of the liberation process. The external element must take place. So as I said, that the political parties that's our biggest hurdle. Will they come together on one platform and one voice to say that we must now liberate ourselves from this historical problem and move in the right direction?
Yes, in fact, just on an editorial note, I believe it's a 2/3 majority that would be required.
Exactly.
Yes.
And no party has ever had that. So it means that unless you come together with one platform, it would never happen. But then both parties are now jockeying. Each one would like to be the one to win that referendum.
Understood. A lot more to say here, but we are totally out of time. And I want to thank both of you for this very moving discussion, very relevant discussion, and thank you for your time and for your thoughts. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Now with no processing fees and no down payment, it's time to open the door to your own sweet home. The time by JN Bank is
7:30, right here on Love 101.
Every day I get bigger, every day I get better. I'm a star and I shimmer. Watch me grow, I'm a winner, yeah. Every step that I take, oh yeah. Feeling great cause I'm learning, yeah. I'm a star and I shimmer. Watch me grow, I'm a winner, yeah. La 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 la. Watch me grow with Alexa Plus.
Help support their mental development at this important stage with a unique combination of nutrients from Lacta Plus. This product is not intended to be a substitute for breast milk. There's certain moments in life you'll cherish forever. Like buying your first car, stepping into your first home, sending your child to university, starting that business you've always dreamed of. These are your great moments, and helping you achieve them is ours. Call Chris and Charles today. We have a loan for all the great moments in your life. Powering great moments since 1992. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Stakeholders, items exported temporarily for repairs or for commercial use must first be registered with the Jamaica Customs Agency using an electronic customs declaration EX2 completed by a customs approved agent. Reimported items which are upgraded, altered, or replaced may attract a customs duty. For customs related matters, you may email public.relations@jca.gov.jm or telephone 876-922-51408. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
How does saving help? Saving helps in avoiding debt, reducing financial stress, leaving a financial legacy, and providing you with a greater sense of financial freedom. It will undoubtedly help in cases of rainy days and boost your overall financial health. This financial literacy tip was brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, building an inclusive economy.
Hey, my friends, it's a family station, Love 101. We have a quick message from our friends over there at CCRP. If you are 50 and over, a CCRP membership has many benefits. CCRP offers you great health plans through Gallagher Insurance Brokers and Sagicor, affordable home and auto insurance to J&GI Silver Shield, as well as a world of fun experiences and discounts from your favorite service providers and retailers. Also, we do outreach and advocate for the elderly. Visit ccrponline.org or any of our offices in Kingston, Montego Bay, Mandeville, and Ocho Rios. Join CCRP today and live life to the fullest. This is Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing in the major daily newspapers this morning and other happenings. We have in the Gleaner, and the story here, or one of the many stories here, Prince William expresses profound sorrow for slavery. And we turn now to the Jamaica Observer. Prince William expresses sorrow for slavery in Jamaica, stops short of apologizing. And those and many other stories in both major daily newspapers. And of course, coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, how will an apology and reparations help you to psychologically heal from the history of slavery? If you haven't done so yet, leave a comment on our Facebook or YouTube, Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes too. 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Yeah, no.
The El Ratri Evangelistic Association, in partnership with the Ministers Fraternal in St. Catherine, is hosting its St. Catherine Virtual Crusade Sunday, March 20 through to Sunday, March 27, 7:30 to 9 o'clock each evening, under the theme Choose Christ in the Crisis, with speakers Reverend Dr. Peter Garth, Bishop Delford Davis, Bishop Rowan Edwards, and Reverend Dexter Johnson. Listen for the Youth Rally Friday, March 25 at 7:30 p.m.
Listen for Through the Bible with Love, brought to you by the Open Bible Standard Churches of Jamaica at 6:50 p.m. Monday to Wednesday, and Leading the Way with Dr. Michael Youssef at 7 p.m. Then on Thursday, March 24 to Sunday, March 27, listen for Through the Bible with Love at 7:15 p.m.
Catch the broadcast on Love 101 Facebook page and right here on the family station, Love 101.
Keep on pushing, heart stay clean, so I keep on.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's join Roshane for a look at how our Facebook and WhatsApp friends answer today's question. How will an apology? Well, Roshane, any comments?
Well, I'm actually looking here at the WhatsApp. I'm seeing one here. I'm not sure if it's relating to the question. They didn't put the hashtag, but let's hear what this voice note has to offer us.
Morning, Brother Rasheen. God is indeed a good God. Thank you for your
All right, I don't think that one is applicable.
Good morning, Brother Omar here. So the apology and reparation would not do much for me in terms of healing, psychologically speaking, seeing that that hasn't impacted me in that sense psychologically. Financially speaking is a different story. The reparation might do something if it is given to me directly, but outside of that, psychologically speaking, not going to really have any healing impact on me. Yeah.
Good morning, host of this show. There's no apology can help anyone, even if you said I am sorry for boxing me in my face. I'm already boxed, so it doesn't matter. And so, you just have to move on with your life and stop staying at apology station. We need to move on, because this apology not going to help us. It's just going to help our ego, but it's not going to help us individually. God bless you.
All right, Stokely, I believe that's the final one for this morning. Not seeing any more at this time. Over to you.
Very interesting, because without an apology, I suppose, there may not be any reparations, Roshane. Let us see more and on that one.
All right.
2 years in the lockdown under COVID. Were your human rights violated? Were they violated, but with reason? What rights and how? Can we do anything about, the matter of how our rights can be affected by those measures, quite stringent measures too? What lessons, if any, have we learned? We have online today to have a discussion around this Arlene Harrison Henry, public defender, and Bishop Steve Blair, host of The Rock on Love 101 FM, and Bishop of the Gateway Deliverance Center. Good day, Madam Public Defender. Good day,
Hi,
Bishop.
morning. Good day. Hi, Miss Arlene. It's been a while.
Great having you both. Excellent having you both.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Always a pleasure.
Miss Arlene knows me as Steve. Hi, Miss Arlene. This is Harold Blair Jr. Hi, how you doing? Long time no see. I know, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we're dealing with the COVID restrictions that had affected Jamaica for just over 2 years. In fact, the restrictions continue, albeit under another law, another act of parliament, the Public Health Act, and those restrictions are much reduced. However, starting with you, Madam Public Defender, what human rights breaches, if any, do you think occurred when there were those tighter restrictions, in not just in Jamaica, but even in other countries? Miss Harrison Henry?
Right, I'm right there. So, looking quickly back at the period, what we saw were unprecedented restrictions of our rights, primarily freedom of movement, freedom of association. Those are the two that come to my mind immediately. Restrictions on gatherings, whether in church or other social gatherings. And these were offered to us as necessary public health measures to restrict the movement and spread of COVID. I'm not going to challenge the public health opinion because I'm really not qualified so to do. But looking back over the period of great inconvenience and suffering and being in lockdown and isolation, I wonder whether or not all of it was necessary. So I give you an example. Where there was an outbreak, say in a particular community, the lockdowns took place not in the community, but like in a parish. We had said on a number of occasions, identify the specific community and apply measures to that community. The fact of the matter is that something caused people to die. And we have right around the world lost hundreds and thousands of persons. The application of the measures concerned me very much in that we saw on television persons in lesser social economic communities being picked up by the police, carted on the back of trucks and taken away. At the same time, we compare that to other communities and other persons where that did not happen. So what we saw in the application of the law, and we see way too often across this island, is an unequal and inequitable enforcement of the law. So it came with a bitter sense. And I am firmly of the view that the jury is out on many of the measures that were introduced.
Very interesting.
That would be how I would want to start the conversation.
Very interesting. Arlene Harrison Henry, Public Defender. I want to bring in Bishop Harold Blair, popularly called Steve Blair. Good morning again, sir. Any comments? Bishop Blair?
I must agree with her in terms of the expressed differences of treatment given to people. But she and I sat on a committee where we looked at the rights of people in a community that was threatened by the police. And I must say that I left that meeting as I look at this situation and say to myself that sometimes I wonder why the government does not enact more measures for the good of the country. And I'm coming from a different point of view in the sense that we saw during COVID, state of emergencies, we saw during COVID, we saw the measures that were put out by the DRMA and also the ZOZOs. And for me, it was a situation where I was left with a belief, but I look at a present-day Jamaica to say, why don't we enact? I know we can't do it because of how we see our democracy, but when I look at where we're going, the music being played on the buses and the music.
Hold that thought one moment, Bishop Blair, because we are upon a break. Listeners, stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
50 and over, get the best health plan as well as fabulous discounts. Visit ccrponline.org today or call 469-1944 and live life to the fullest. The time by CCRP is
7:45.
JN Money Card. Send the money. More withdraw in a hurry. JN Money Card free. With your TRN and your ID. And when me not walk with cash, me just swipe like that. From abroad to card. Get the JN Money Card. It's safe, convenient, and free. JN Money Card sent from abroad. JN Money Card.
Available at JN Money locations across Jamaica. Conditions apply.
I choose to start this year smiling with Colgate-Palmolive. By purchasing selected Colgate-Palmolive products at participating stores, receive premiums or samples. Promotion available from February 1st to March 17th. Go on, what are you waiting for? Start this year smiling with Colgate-Palmolive.
I did a crazy attack. You see me? Me's a real G. Real go-getter. My life move non-stop. So me have to stay link and floor yard and road. My connect and one plan link me up at home with Wi-Fi and on my mobile with data and calls to any network. At my yard, non-stop streaming my vibes. I studying from a picnic them and out the road. A non-stop vibes. Same way. Flow connect me non-stop for as little as $3,999 a month plus GCT. I forget it. Visit discoverflow.co. Conditions apply.
Stakeholders, items exported temporarily for repairs or for commercial use must first be registered with the Jamaica Customs Agency using an electronic customs declaration EX2 completed by a customs approved agent. Re-imported items which are upgraded, altered, or replaced may attract a customs duty. For customs related matters, you may email public.relations@jca.gov.jm or telephone 876-922-51408. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. We are speaking with Bishop Harold Blair Jr., popularly called Steve Blair, and Arlene Harrison Henry. Arlene Harrison Henry is the public defender. Bishop Steve Blair is the host of the Rock on Love 101 FM and Bishop of the Gateway Deliverance Center. And we're having a very interesting discussion on human rights lessons learned during the period of COVID restrictions. Bishop Blair, before the break, you're making a point. We'd like to finish that point before I bring back in the public defender.
Sure, and she probably will have a lot to say following what I have to say because she's someone I highly respect. But I just really wanted to bring a different side to the table. And I mentioned when she and I worked together how we saw police abuses, but at the same time, I was left wondering about the people. And I see in Jamaica a people that are willing to break every rule, a people that are willing to move beyond situations. So Jamaicans don't seem to care, and we've seen that in many cases that COVID exists. Jamaicans don't seem to care about guns because they're allowed the guns to be hid in their homes. Jamaicans don't seem to care about all the bad words being played on the buses and in the bars. So at some point in time, where do we draw the line between a human rights abuse of freedom and what is necessary for the country? Obviously, I'm not a person who supports communism, for instance, where the government just shuts everything down and decides this is the way it's going to go. But I'm asking the question, where do we draw the line between human rights abuse and what is necessary? So with the DRMA, the government said, we don't have a law that can be used for COVID, but let us do these things. And despite all of that, there were still parties. There were still people walking on the road without masks. There were still people existing as if COVID not gone.
One question though, Bishop. It is well established that persons who have their human rights breached, many of them, not all, but many of them, have committed some pretty nefarious things. It doesn't mean that you breach their human rights. So yes, persons may have breached the various regulations, but the public defender made some very valid points. For example, the difference in the treatment of certain persons in relation to others when certain rules were breached during COVID. Any comments on that, Bishop Blair?
Well, I still continue what I'm saying. The fact is that people were breaking the rules.
And yes, and we're not saying rules weren't being broken, but the difference in the treatment of different persons from different strata of society.
That does not determine that that rights were taken away. But I do understand that.
Well, stick up in one moment there, sir. Stick up in one moment.
I did start my statement by saying I agreed with her.
Okay, we'll stick up in one moment there, nevertheless. Madam Public Defender, in terms of the future, because
in terms of the what?
In terms of the future, let us say, for example, for some reason, the government felt the need to have certain measures again imposed that would arguably curtail our human rights. And I tell you why I mention this. If you go on the WHO website, you will see where, and I'm doing a bit of quotation here. On the World Health Organization website, you will see that the World Health Assembly agrees to launch process to develop historic global accord on pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response. And
I'm very concerned about that.
And let me just complete this before you comment, Madam Public Defender.
Sorry.
And that's fine, Madam Public Defender. Under the relevant decision adopted, an outcome for consideration should be submitted to the Intergovernmental Negotiating Body by the 77th World Health Assembly in 2024. Now, if my reading of this is correct, it means that all the relevant countries of the world that subscribe to the WHO, maybe Jamaica included, I don't know, that would need to be said to us, would be submitting itself to the rules of the WHO in a future pandemic situation under the relevant treaty that they seem to be trying to put together. Madam Public Defender, any thoughts?
I have a deep abiding concern about that, because that appears to be an intended treaty that would trespass upon our sovereignty. Let me give you an example. Some goodly people came up and companies in Jamaica said, oh, we need mandatory vaccine. Where could such an idea come from? Where you are telling the Jamaican people, as some companies did, that you cannot maintain your employment with us unless you are mandatorily vaccinated. What people put in their bodies or what medication they wish to take or any operation that they decide to take, it's a matter for the individual. It is not a matter for the state. And I have a concern about global powers, and we're just small pawns in this, to come now with some treaty to try and predetermine how a country would manage any pandemic situation or any public health concern. I have a concern about that. And I go further and say, and this really is troubling for me, that those persons who took the vaccination, and let me say it again, because I've said it repeatedly, I am vaccinated. I took a decision based on my age and my health status to take the vaccination. I am, however, the minority in my family. to have opted for the vaccination? Did I treat other family members in a discriminatory position to say, oh, you can't be in the same space as I am because you're unvaccinated? We had policies in this country that said if you're attending so-and-so function, it's only open to those who are vaccinated. And look what has now happened. We had a thing called breakthrough infections, where those vaccinated developed COVID, though we were told that it would have offered protection. Then the stance on that changed and said, well, the protection is X percentage. Then we went on again and said, oh, we need booster shots because the protection has now been lowered again. I have deep concerns, and forgive me, I'm not a scientist. I have deep concerns about the accuracy of the science at this stage, having watched this pandemic play out. We do not have a status, for instance, of persons who got COVID and recovered. Are they better than those of us who are vaccinated? Have they not developed natural immunity? I think we need to look back at the science because that has shifted like the sand over the period.
Very interesting. And Madam Public Defender, I want to bring back in Bishop Blair before we wrap. But if we were to in fact have this global pandemic treaty, which the WHO seems to be heading towards, what, if anything, should be included to protect the rights of persons all across the globe, to include Jamaica? Do you think there is anything that can be included in such a treaty to nevertheless protect the human rights of individuals?
Go ahead, please, Harold.
No. Well, the thing is, if you're asking me that question, I would say we need to revert to what the public defender is saying. Things can be made mandatory when it comes to situations like that. We will say it's needed, but we've got to allow people to make some determination. But in the case of the same statement in terms of allowing what we want into our bodies, I'm concerned, and this is why governments and people like who come up with their statements, because we don't really have a place to say people can determine what comes in. When you look at the Rasta man and you look at others who have been fined or arrested for the use of drugs or other things that we determine is now illegal, and because we are saying that this is legal, you must take it. I think we're in a place where there's no real self-determination, and people are being forced to do things. And
Bishop Blair, do you share the sovereignty concern expressed by the public defender? Because I did find it quite telling that.
I totally do.
Yes, I find it quite telling that an international body could make a decision for a country.
It cannot and should not happen. Or I should say, it should not and cannot happen.
Which appears to be the direction of where things would go if that treaty were to come to pass. Any final thoughts, both of you, because we're literally out of time? Bishop Blair and then the public defender. Bishop Blair, any final comments?
I just want to say that the points that we've made today are very important in terms of rich versus poor, in terms of people getting arrested and carted away. The public defender is very familiar with that in so many different situations. And for me, what we have done in many cases is indeed taking away the rights of our people. Also with the vaccination. So we need to have a look at this. And finally, the last point she made is totally important because people who caught COVID are allowed into countries around the world without vaccination. And so the whole aspect of health and what the health systems believe has not been expressed to our people because people have been forced to take the vaccination and really never needed to take it because they've already gotten COVID. So we need to look at these things before we proceed further.
Madam Public Defender, a final comment in a second or so.
Yeah. Thank you. I want to say that the vast majority of Jamaicans from wherever are decent people, decent law-abiding people. It is a minority of us who cause mayhem.
Have to leave it there this morning.
Very finally, COVID has taught us the importance of washing our hands and re-emphasize the importance of certain basic hygiene.
Have to leave it there this morning. Have to leave it there. I want to thank our listeners for being with us. Have to leave it there, Madam Public Defender. We're totally out of time. Want to thank them for being with us. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for our programs. Listen to the Morning Watch on our app. Download it today, the Love 101 app, and download it today. Of course, we are the number 4 station in the island, the number 1 gospel station in Jamaica. Join Reverend Dr. Dallin to saw next week as we get other topical and controversial issues. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Galen, to our guests. I am Stokeley Marsh, and you're back in the morning with Roshane Douglas.
Thank you, Stokeley. All the best to you now. This is Love 101 FM, the family station. It's now time for the program Forward in Faith. Forward in Faith is brought to you by the New Testament Church